Hello everyone, welcome to Let's DevOps. I am Sumit and today we are going to discuss about how to trigger a pipeline from another pipeline in GitLab. So for all the discussion and demo, I'll be following this article. You can find the link of this article in video description. So let's start. So introduction. So in this article, we will discuss how to trigger a pipeline from another pipeline. It is also called as triggering the downstream pipeline. Coming to the prerequisites, to proceed further, you must know the basic of GitLab YAML. If you are new to this, don't worry. I have added the link of my GitLab tutorial here. You can follow this. Now let's discuss what are the different options we have to trigger a pipeline from another pipeline. So if you see here, we have two different options. One is to set up a parent-child pipeline. Second is to set up a multi-project pipeline. So now we will discuss each of them one by one. So let's discuss the first option. What is a parent-child pipeline? A parent pipeline is a pipeline that triggers a downstream pipeline in the same project. And the downstream pipeline is called as a child pipeline. So if you notice in this diagram, we have four different YAML pipeline in a same project. One can be configured at the root repo level and other can be configured at the subfolder of the repository. And in this case, I want to trigger three different pipelines from the main repo pipeline. So this one I can configure here, the GitLab-ci.yaml. This can be configured to trigger all of them with the help of the keyword include as well as a trigger. So this setup we call as a parent-child pipeline. So in this will become the parent and the downstream pipeline will become the child. Okay, let's discuss the second option. What is multi-project pipeline? A pipeline in one project can trigger downstream pipeline in another project called multi-project pipeline. So if you notice in a GitLab, we can have a multiple project, right? And if you want to trigger a pipeline from one project to another project, then in that scenario, we'll create a multi-project pipeline. So if you notice in this diagram, we have one YAML pipeline in the project A and the second YAML or a pipeline in a project B. And with the help of trigger and project keyword, we can trigger the pipeline from one project to another project. So assume that I want to trigger a project B from project A, then I will configure this YAML with the help of trigger and the project. So whenever this will run, it will also trigger the pipeline from a project B. So project B will become my downstream pipeline and project A will become the main project pipeline. So this setup we call it as a multi-project pipeline. So let's discuss the multiple scenario which we will use for our demo and a setup. So first scenario can be if you want to trigger your pipeline from another pipeline. Second is like if you have a multiple project in a single GitLab repository, how you are going to build those separately. So third is like triggering a pipeline from another GitLab project. And fourth is like how you are going to build your project for a multiple platform. So before starting with our demo and setup, first let's understand what are the important keyword which we should know, because these keyword only help us to set up the pipeline, like the triggering the pipeline from another pipeline. So first is the trigger keyword. So trigger keyword we will use with the include keyword to trigger the another pipeline. And include is like to help what are the YAML pipeline that you wanted to include as part of the trigger. The third is the project. So if you want to trigger a project from one GitLab project to another GitLab project, then in that case we will use the project. And the third is rules. So assume that if you want to trigger your pipeline based on some rule, then you can define under the rule. So let's discuss the first scenario. So if you want to trigger a pipeline from another pipeline in the same project, then in that case we will use the parent-child technique and the keyword will use trigger and include to set up that. So in the parent pipeline, we will create a job that will trigger the pipeline, and under that we will define the stage and the trigger keyword, and under the include we will include the path of the child pipeline. Okay, so this is one of the example. So let's set up that in a GitLab. So for the demo, let me go to my GitLab account. Here I am in the GitLab demo project, and currently I have one sample solution file, a sample project. Under that I will try to add a new GitLab YAML file. So I'll just select the GitLab CI dot GitLab -ci dot YML. Okay, and here I will just define one stage called build, and then one job I will define, build job, for the parent pipeline, right? And this will run on the stage build, and then I will write a script. So where this will run on the runner sass. So echo hello, I'm in parent pipeline. I'm in parent. Okay, so now let me try to commit, and here if you see, this will show you if you have any issue in your GitLab configuration file. So this is my GitLab CI, and under that okay, let me go to the repository first. Okay, so this is one of my GitLab YAML that which I created just now, and so this will become my parent. So now assume that if I am in the same project and I want to trigger this YAML, which is I think already I created. So this is one of the YAML pipeline that I want to trigger from the main pipeline, this one. So how we are going to configure that, and this is under the same project. So in this case we will use the parent child technique, and then we will use the keyword trigger with the help of include. Okay, so let's edit this. So since we are going to trigger the pipeline from another folder, I will create another job called trigger child, something with this name, child, and here I will add a command trigger, and with the keyword, another keyword include, and here I should give the path of the child YAML. Okay, so I'll first commit this, although it will show some error, right? If you see this is not valid, so we will complete that. I will go and get the path of my child, so this will become my child. So it is under the build new git package, so I'll go ahead and update it. So now this is under this, and then dot git lab -ci dot YAML. Okay, so let me commit this. Okay, so yeah, so this job is still shows invalid because we haven't included in any job, sorry, in the stage. So let me define the stage, and that could be the build. Let me commit it. Okay, now it says that configuration is valid. So let's come and see whether it has triggered the child pipeline or not. So if you notice here, this is the build job which we defined in the parent pipeline, and the second is that triggering the child pipeline. And if you notice here, we have a tag also, the child. So it is already triggered. So let me see the output. Okay, so build job. So build job will display the message I am in parent, and our child should display the message saying for unit test, I guess. Yeah, I'm in the unit test. So I think this is how we can set it up. If you want to trigger a pipeline with the help of this parent child relationship, we can do that, and that we can also achieve with the help of the trigger and include keyword. Okay, so now we have a second scenario. So assume that I have a two different project in the same repository, and I want to trigger the project pipeline when there is a change in a specific project. So like assume that you have the one repository. Under that repository we have a two different project which is being used by different team. So in that case, how you're going to set up your pipeline, and then because those are a different project, you need to also run them separately, right? So how you're going to configure that kind of scenario. So first of all, this can be also under the parent child technique, because we are going to trigger under the same project, and the keyword again we will use the trigger and the include. Okay. Now coming to this GitLab project, I have this GitLab project, and there are two different folder I have created under the repository, in the main repository. One is like with the SRS test, and one is with the SRS test 2. So assume that in your case you have a two different the project, maybe project A and project B, and you wanted to configure the separate pipeline under that. So assume that I have created just a sample one for our demo. So this one has one pipeline, and the SRS test 2 also have one pipeline. Okay. Now I want to configure a pipeline which can be your the main pipeline. So whenever there is a change in a specific folder, like assume that if there is a change in this particular project, so that pipeline will only trigger this YAML. It will not touch, or it will not do anything with the other, right? So in this case, how we are going to configure that? Okay. So as I mentioned that we in this case also, because we are going to use the same project, we'll use the parent child technique, and then we will use the keyword trigger with the include. So I'll create the first the main pipeline here. I'll add a new pipeline with the GitLab CI, and again I'll just GitLab -ci.yaml. Okay. So I will say the stages. So I'll add a stages called a triggers. So because we are with this pipeline, we are only triggering that the pipeline which has the changes, right? So now I'll add that, and then I will add a job called trigger -SRS test. Okay, and under that I will define the stage, so that will be triggers, and then I will define the trigger keyword, because this is only going to trigger with the include. So include will have the path, right? So SRS test, I think this is the folder name, SRS test underscore / GitLab -ci.yaml. Okay. So now we will also define the rules, because we want to only trigger when there is a change. So here changes, and then here we'll add the SRS test / stars. So basically whenever there is a change in this particular folder, subfolder also of the SRS test, then it should trigger this YAML pipeline. Okay. So we have defined for one project, and then let's define for the other trigger SRS test 2, right? And then we'll add the stage as a triggers, and then trigger with the trigger option, then include, and I think it is SRS2, that is my project name, and then GitLab -ci.yaml. And then we will add again the rule for this, that if there is a changes in this particular folder, I'll just copy this, and in this case this, so it should trigger. So if you notice here, we have defined two different job, and this job basically will trigger the pipeline based on this condition, that if there is any changes in that particular folder, it will only trigger that pipeline. Okay, so I'll just commit this change, and let's see if there is any issue in the pipeline. Okay, yeah, I can say this trigger SRS test job. Okay, so this, I think the spelling is not right. So here triggers, right, and then I will commit. Okay, now this is valid now. So let's do one thing. Let's try to make the changes in each folder one by one and then see if it is triggering that particular pipeline or not. So let's go to the repository and then the SRS test. Okay, so let me change it. Just I'll make the update here. Okay, now let's go to the pipeline, and it would have triggered already. Okay, yeah. So if you notice here, I think this triggered job is got triggered this time, and I think this is the child one, which is a build A, which we define. So let's go and see what we have here, what we are displaying it, so that we'll understand. GitLab job, I'm in the SRS test. Okay, so I think that is the command which I added there. That's the reason it is showing that. Okay, so this is SRS2. Okay, so I am in the SRS test. So let's try to run this let's try to make the change in the other project. So assume that if I say that, okay, hello, so in this case it should trigger the second pipeline, right, as per the changes, because we had just made the change in the SRS2 only. So let's go to the pipeline and see what has changed. So currently it is triggered, and now if you see, this time it triggered the SRS test 2. Okay, so this is how we have to set it up. So you need to set it up, the main pipeline with the trigger job. You need to include the trigger and include keyword, and with the help of this you can set it up your own pipeline. Let's discuss the third scenario. So triggering a pipeline from another GitLab project. So assume that I have a project and I have a pipeline in it, and I want to trigger a pipeline which exists in the another project. So how we are going to do that? So this technique we will use as a multi-project pipeline setup, and the keyword we will use trigger and a project. So for this setup, first we need to get the information of the project where you wanted to trigger a pipeline, and that information is like, first we need to get a group name, and the second is we need to get a project name, and this is how we need to set it up. So under the trigger and a project section, we need to provide the name of the group and the name of the project. So whatever the GitLab GitLab-YAML pipeline which is configured in that project, it will get triggered. Okay, so this is one of the sample examples. So let's go and see in the demo. So assume that this is one of my project from where I want to trigger the pipeline, and let me also go and see the another YAML which exists in a different pipeline. So I created one of this, actually this project, to show the demo. So in this case I have this is a, I think this is a project name, right, and let's see what is the group name. Okay, so this is the group name, SRS group test, and this SRS test hyphen trigger is a name of the project. So let me try to get that information here. Okay, so we are in the GitLab-demo project, and we are going to trigger the pipeline from SRS test-trigger project, right? So let's configure this pipeline. So let me change this trigger multi project. Okay, and instead of include, we are going to use a project, right? Because this is how we need to trigger that. And here first we need to provide the information of the group name, that is SRS group test, SRS test group and the name of the project is SRS trigger, right? So SRS trigger. SRS trigger. Okay, so that's all right. Let's commit this change. Okay, and let's see if it got triggered here something, because we already created this pipeline. Okay, 5 minutes ago, not this one, I guess. Right, so this is a valid SRS test group, SRS test hyphen trigger. So let's check the pipeline execution, and if you come here and if you notice, I think it has been got failed. So let's check the error, and it says that downstream project could not be found. So it means like something the wrong information we gave. So let's copy this information. Okay, copy, and let's go to this pipeline again. Let me edit. Yeah, this is wrong actually, so let's try to update this. Okay, now let's commit. So once we commit this, now it should be triggered. So currently it is running. Okay, so it again failed. Downstream project could not found. So I notice here we had some issue because somehow that space got added. So let me trigger again, and I think this time it should pass. So now, yeah, it is currently running. Yeah, so if you notice here, this has been already triggered. This SRS hyphen trigger is the name of the demo, and if you notice, this is a multi-project pipeline. Under that, if you notice, we have a build job. Let's go and check that whether we have that information or not. The build job task, right? So if you notice, this is the build job, and we are printing hello world, I am in the second project. So let's see the output of this. Hello, I am in the second project, right? So I think that's all for this demo. So for the third scenario, you can try by your own, and if you have any issue while configuring, you can write it to me in the inbox. I'll be happy to help. So here you can find some references. There are some other GitLab tutorial and the blog also, which I have added in this GitLab section. You can find it out. Here I have a different section if you see, and the GitLab I have some more the video and the article created. Okay, so thanks for watching this video. I hope this will be helpful, and if you have any issue or concern, you can write in the comment box. I'll be happy to help. Okay, so thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye.